Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cat's Agenda. Thank you for joining us. I'm Katrina. I'm your host, and today will be our full episode with someone very special in my life, the woman that birthed me and gave me the hustle, introducing Miss Wanda Ramos.
Okay, thank you for having me, my beautiful daughter, and thank you for letting me be your first guest in your new endeavor, which is the podcast. I'm pretty excited about this whole journey for you, and I wish you lots of luck. And again, thank you for having me.
Well, this is the space that we have created, right? And you are the founder of this whole Simply Creative thing. So we're going to get into that. Our recording studio, party goods, all the stuff that she's embarked upon. We're going to talk about that. So let's start by hearing about your journey. Can you share some highlights of your life? What shaped you into the incredible woman you are today? Your passion, your purpose, and who you are?
Well, the thing is I don't see myself as the beautiful woman like you may seem to put me on that, high pedestal, but I appreciate that though. My journey has been a long one. It's been, life has given me like growth, also being responsible, teaching me how to be responsible, especially at an early age, and dealing with a lot of adult responsibilities as a child. But then also too, becoming a mother at an early age. I became an entrepreneur at an early age. So those are the things that started the foundation of where I'm at today. And it has built confidence in a lot of things, and sometimes not so confident. But my thing is that people can, or women can always start over again and do something meaningful in their lives. And it's never too late. And, basically life has shown me that, resilience.
Yeah, you also taught me that as well. I think that being a young mom, like you were forced to grow up early, and same like me. I think I kind of followed in your footsteps and good ways, and also between the entrepreneurship and the being a young mom and all that stuff. But and I think you're amazing. I think you're beautiful. You gave us all the beauty. So I mean, I think we all kind of we are very hard on ourselves when it comes to like what we define as beautiful. But you are beautiful inside and out, and I love you so much for that. Like,
thank you.
Everything that you have done for us. I know your journey hasn't been easy. So let's talk about how you got started in the creative side. What made you wanna embark on that journey?
Well, it all started as a child. When I was a kid, I used to like to draw. And I think that was my escape. Being creative was a part of a therapy that I had as a kid. And it grew into throughout my whole life. So starting out then, and then I had a fantastic teacher in junior high school, saw my talents. At that time, just you were getting into high school at, I believe it was 10th grade, and I went in 9th grade. So I kind of like graduated at 8th grade, which was a good accomplishment because I got into a school, art and design high school.
Yes.
Yeah, and from there
now
and it goes, and that's pretty awesome to see that
runs in the family.
She has the artistic ability. So that's where the art came from. I've always been creative. I was always drawing and doing things, art, crafts, doing all that stuff. So yeah, that's where that came from. I think as a kid, I think also too, it's God gave me this gift.
Right.
So it was a special gift that He gave me. I didn't know it at the time that gift was going to be with me all my life and have molded me and helped me throughout my life, because that's what I would always go back to.
Right.
So as far as art, business, it all falls into place with that.
Right. And let's talk about becoming a young mother, because I think what you were still in high school when you became pregnant with me.
Yeah.
How was that experience with being a teenager, in high school when all your other friends are, doing normal things, and here you are pregnant at 16, or finding out you were pregnant at 16 years old.
Well, I was like actually not 16. I was 17 years
Oh,
old.
sorry, 17.
17 going on 18.
Whoops, sorry.
Still a little younger than what people expected. There's a lot of things a lot of emotions that went through going through that stage of my life, because first I was a teenager, obviously, getting pregnant, and everybody else is, like you said, doing their own thing and stuff like that. And then people looking at you like, oh, because that wasn't the norm. You
Right.
well, you early motherhood, everybody is going out doing their own thing, getting ready for college and doing those things. And I'm becoming a parent. So, I mean, it all worked out because the school that I went to, they were pretty cool. Everybody accepted me. When I was pregnant, I would go to school, do what I needed to do, come home. Mom supported me with that. After you were born, then I still had another year to go in school. So mommy took care of you, and I ended up, finishing high school. I didn't go to college. I think that's one of the things that I kind of like regret that I didn't do, not because of the education, but the experience.
Right.
So everybody else that I knew went to college. They went off and did their own thing because they were all art majors,
Right.
So everybody had big plans in their lives.
Well, I feel like you had kind of the best college, which was like the what college really can't teach you.
Right.
You know what I mean? You had like the street knowledge, you had the knowledge of real life and the things that you had to learn. And now looking back on it, that was kind of your education. Unfortunately, it's not standard, but sometimes the best education, I think, is kind of learning and going through things on your own and being able now to teach other people, what we've learned, and kind of save them some time. You go to college, great. I mean, I went to college too, but as similar, got pregnant. I kind of lost my passion for what once you kind of find out that you really don't like those things. You're artsy. I'm totally opposite. So, I think that we can relate when it comes to certain things in terms of like education and stuff, but, and being young parents.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give like young mothers, at having a child at a young age and being able to still finish high school and go on with their life?
Well, I was lucky enough to have a support system in the sense that I had my mom. Not so much my dad, because my dad was not in the picture in the sense that my mom and my dad separated when I was 11. So my dad didn't live with us, but my mom did she stepped up to the plate as far as taking care of you while I was able to, finish school. But if you do have a support system, and even if you don't, I'm sure there's places or friends or someone that you can relate to that can help you, especially when you want to finish doing what you need to finish doing. It's not easy, but never give up. Always move forward. Just think of the bigger picture, because now you don't have yourself to take care of, but you have a child to take care of.
Right.
So your child is first. Should be first. As a young parent, we don't tend to know these things because kids don't come with instructions.
Yep.
So I think as parents, as young parents, then, you learn these things, that the kids come first, but you also are a child.
Right.
So sometimes you don't want to be a parent.
Right.
Sometimes you're like, oh, why did I get myself into this mess? And then you'll figure it out as you go along the way, because that's what happened to me. I had to figure things out.
Right.
Things weren't told to me or given to me. I didn't have, monetary. I had to work. I went to school and I worked. So it wasn't easy. But my thing is, don't ever give up. your
Right.
dreams, continue to move forward, try to get your education, try to finish. It's going to be hard, it's going to be tough, especially if you don't have a support system, but to continue to, strive.
Seek outlets too. I think it's
Yeah.
important what you said, because not everybody has that support system. Like when I got pregnant what at 18, and yeah, 18, and I had my kid, I had Devin at 19. So you were my support system, even though you were mad as hell at me and didn't want to talk to me, and or do you want ice cream and stuff like that, little, and
I
then
didn't, it wasn't I was mad. I was
disappointed, of
disappointed.
course, because I
Because
know.
you when you have a child, of course you don't want your child to go through the same footsteps as you, because you want your kid to be better, have
Right.
better things in life. And not that having a child at an early age is a bad thing. It's just that it just holds you back a little bit. It just, retains, you can't really
Right.
do much as a like if you don't have any children.
And then
So,
also to piggyback on, like, you're kind of growing up with your child
right,
as well. Like my firstborn and me and you, we kind of like sisters, best friends,
right.
like we grew up like that, and then when I had my son, in the beginning you were disappointed, you were mad, but forget it. That's her baby.
Yeah.
Both
I
my
think
kids, but
that's something that's normal. So if people are in a situation or listening to this and say they find themselves in that situation where, oh my God, I'm pregnant, I can't tell my mom or I can't tell my dad, or how they're gonna feel about me, how my friends are gonna feel about me, things like that. It's something that you have to expect that, because that's how
definitely.
people are gonna react to it. But eventually, they'll get over it once they see the baby and the baby starts giving you love and all that stuff. You kind of tend to forget about all those
Right,
things.
right. And I'm so grateful that I had that support system. Like I had you and my siblings, my little babysitters. Like I was blessed to be able to have that, because a lot of people, don't have that. So
Mhm.
again, like finding a good support system, friends, family. And if you don't have that, like there's so many different outlets that you can reach out to,
Yeah.
like for new parents and young mothers and so many different things. So, anybody looking for support, we are also here. But let's get into the next question. Um, let's see. So the influence of family. How did family dynamics, how did family dynamics impact life choices and values? What lessons did you learn from your parents that you carried into your own parenting?
All right. Because my mom and my dad separated at an early age, and life as a child for me was a little bit difficult. It wasn't the norm. I kind of grew up a little faster than the normal, child. My childhood was not an average childhood. I don't know if that's even what
Makes
an
sense.
average childhood means, but for me, my with my child, I had to grow up faster. So with my parents, not to say that my parents were bad people, or they didn't teach me values, because my mommy always taught us values and stuff like that. Dad wasn't really present as he should have been. But back then things were different. It
Right.
was, you worked, you took care of the
The man
bills.
was a provider.
Right, exactly. The man was the provider. Mom stood home. Mom didn't have a job, but we also had my brother that was handicapped, so she couldn't go out and work. So she was able to support in that way. But I think what I took away from both my parents was to be more present in your guys' lives, because they weren't as present as I needed them to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. It makes sense. I think sometimes, especially being young and having so many responsibilities, we kind of grow up and we become like survival mode. Like our life is okay, I have to survive. I have to do whatever it takes to make sure my family is good, to make sure, my kids are good, to make sure those are things that we grew up on this on a different level than someone else that would have children maybe at a later age. So I can totally, relate to that. So let's talk about your work ethic and hustle. You always been a hard worker. Can you talk about the challenges you faced while balancing work and family, and how you instilled that work ethic in my life and our siblings?
Well, I don't think I did it intentionally. It just came because I had, just like you just said, you become someone that has to go on survival mode, especially failed relationships that I've had, and being a single parent of four children. Um, and since I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset, I think that also helped me to, to further out what I want, what I seeked. And to be honest with you, I don't even know what I was seeking. It was
Right.
just more. I just wanted more.
Right.
And I think it's more to, I think it's more about the challenges,
Right.
taking the challenge on and then trying to combat them. And my creativity always helped me. So my mind was always being an entrepreneur, not a somebody that worked for someone.
Right.
And I did work. I was out in the field working, doing that. But I never saw growth, and
Right.
I never saw myself staying in a place where I wasn't happy. And I always thought to myself, as a kid, I always said to myself, and to this day, that I never regret anything that I've tried to do, because now, at my age, I can say, I did that.
Right.
I didn't like. I'm not gonna say, damn, I should have done that. So there's so many things that I did. Not to say that they were successful, because I had a lot of failures. I had a lot of success.
Absolutely.
But I always took the chance. I never ever I never listened to the noise out there. And if it was the right thing or the wrong thing, I learned the lesson as I went along the way.
Right, I agree. I mean, you did do a lot of things. I remember you used to do nails. You went to cosmetology school. One day you came back with all your hair chopped off. I remember, and I cried.
Yeah, no.
You went. You were even a taxi cab driver at one
Yes.
point. You did, like, when I tell you everything that you had to do to make sure there was food on the table. I know, because I was a babysitter most of the time, and
Yeah.
you opened your own business. I would say, I don't remember what year it was, but it was a street store. And I would come after school while you actually had another job. And we kind of, like, I learned young too. That's how I got my hustle and my survival mode going too, because, I think growing up with a parent that has to provide for four children, and really, they have a support system, but it's not like, something steady, so she had to do what she had to do, and I can relate, because we just pretty much, I'm a lot like her in a lot of ways, except I'm not artsy. She's like the artsy. But with all of that, you stuck with one thing, which was your passion
Yeah.
for your arts and
Yeah.
for your crafts and for your business skills, your entrepreneurship. So that I love so much, that you stuck with what from day one was your purpose.
Yeah.
So
Not only my purpose, but like you said, my passion.
Passion.
My passion led me to my purpose.
Right.
So my passion has always been being creative, teaching people what I know. If I see something, I'm always trying to look for perfection, but you don't need to be perfect.
Right.
So that's another thing with parenting. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. That's the way I see it.
Right.
If you're present, then everything lines up into place. But being creative is what drives me to do what I do. So, and I love it. Like now I'm semi-retired, and what I do is my crafting.
Right.
It puts me in a happy place, and not only that, but whoever is a crafter or an artist in that sense, I know they can relate to me, because I've talked to many people doing the same thing that I do, and it's an escape, to the realities outside. So, that's why you see me, in my zone when I'm doing my art and stuff
Right.
like that, and but I'm in my happy place. So that's the best thing out of it, because it is my passion.
We have so many more questions to go over, but stay with us after the break.
You are tuned in to Kat's Agenda. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, welcome back. So we just finished speaking about your hustle, your passion, how you instilled that hustle in your children, not purposely, but just us by seeing you hustle. Anything else you want to piggyback off of that, or we're on to the next subject?
Yeah, we can go on to the next subject.
Because we'll be here forever,
Yeah, we
right?
will be here forever, and I
Yeah.
think we can touch bases on that in another episode that I'll be probably invited to again.
Of course, of course. So let's go through some life lessons for the next generation. What are some key lessons you believe that every child should learn from their parents?
Oh boy, that's a very good question.
Because kids don't want to learn from their parents. We're the last ones that, reach out to parents for advice and stuff because they think they know everything,
Yeah, that's true too. Um, I think with kids, it depends on the child. You know what I'm saying? But
You had four of them. So,
yeah, but all four, you have to understand something. When you have kids and multiple kids, four kids are it's a lot. Some have more, some have less. But I think if you have more than one child, let's put it that way, um, each kid is different.
they get a
So
different experience of
yeah,
you.
the way, and I feel it's the same way as you love them differently, right? You love your children. For me, I'm just saying, for me, you love your children all on the same level, right? But you love them differently because they're different human beings, right? They see things differently. So I think as a parent and teaching them certain things, like we all do, you don't want your kids to go through the same things you went through. You try to educate them as much as you can. You try to push them to the best of their abilities, because I think I did that with you guys. And I didn't do that because I didn't think you guys were not worthy or were not smart. I knew that you guys could do better,
Right.
and it was only, a life lesson. At the time, you probably really hated me. When you would come home with certain grades and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
like that. And
We
I would
used to
always
have
tell
to
you,
hide.
yeah, but the thing is it wasn't that I was disappointed in you guys. It was just to push you guys because I knew your guys' ability of being, better than what you were giving.
Right.
So, for the next generation, hopefully things that they can see that we went through, like you and I, that they can take away those things and not make the same mistakes. And as parents, we try to keep on instilling that, even though they hate hearing it over and over again. Some may say, "Oh yeah, mom, I know," but it's always something that needs to be done as a parent. That's our responsibility to make sure that they try not to make the same mistakes that we made, and try to go in different directions to better their lives,
Right.
so that they don't have to struggle or become resilient, because that's how I became. I became resilient because of my past, because of the things I went through. But that's life's lessons anyway. And I've always been the type of person that, of course, when things are bad, just to try to, accept that things are bad, and then continue to move
Right.
forward, and try to look at the things in a better perspective.
I think that's a tough thing to do because even for myself, sitting in your pain sometimes and sitting still and kind of just figuring out what's next, as a parent, because it's not only you, like you said, like you had four.
Yeah.
So I know, I can't imagine. I mean, I've seen what you've gone through. I've seen your highs, your lows. I mean, I only had two and it was really difficult. But just being able to sit back and say, you did the best that you could, and when you went through the hard times, same thing like me, like we always, thankfully, we have, again, a good support system. Not everybody has that, but, great friends, great family, that helps us through it. But sitting in that pain sometimes, or sitting in what's next, I think, it needs to be done because a lot of people, they just pick up and ignore what's going on and keep going. Sometimes you got to sit there and you got to, like, okay, I gotta do what I have to do because I have people relying on me. I can't stay here. I can't stay in bed.
Right.
If I have to cry, I have to shout, I'll go in the shower, I do whatever. My kids see me every day.
Right.
And that's what gives you the power to go on. And again, I think a lot of people, sometimes we also drown ourselves in work and stuff like that to try to forget the pain. But I think getting past the pain is really sitting through it and then say, okay, tackling your challenges head on. Because I've always seen you do that. Like, I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I had no other choice. You have no other choice.
Right.
Like with me, it was a survival mode. You have no other choice. This is what I have to do. Not only that, I have responsibilities, which were my children, which were to make sure that I can, do the things that I can do to the best of my ability.
Right.
Not to say that my ability was, I knew it all or I had it all. It was something that of what I knew, what was installed in me, because I had to grow up early. I had to do all these things, at an early age where, you have to move forward. And unfortunately it has, you learn these things on some survival mode, but at the same time, I think I wouldn't have wanted any different, because that's what made me the way I was. And I guess you guys also seen that. So, and I'm glad in a way because all four of you have that work ethic, which I am very blessed, because a lot of people don't have that. They have four kids and they have the troubles of, things that come with different kids, and different, different things that happen in their lives. But with me, I've been pretty fortunate. I can't really say that I've been through really, really bad times with you guys. And you guys all picked up on that work ethic. But it wasn't really, for me, it wasn't done on purpose. You know what I'm saying? Right. You guys saw it, but it wasn't like, I'm going to teach you guys this. You got to learn this. No, it was just, that's how life threw it to me. So I had to.
I want to piggyback because I remember being young and, mom was a hard worker. And it was like, I want these new Jordans. All right, you want Jordans, you're going to go work for them. And I started working at 14 because I did want my own things,
right.
And you did teach that. It wasn't like, it wasn't like you couldn't give it, but you had other responsibilities. So you're like, you know what? You guys want nice things. You've always provided for what we needed. We always had nice stuff. But the nicer things or the things that kids would say, popular stuff like Jordans and name brand stuff, you were like, you guys want that? You better go get a job. And you know what? At some point, that was, for me, it was like showing me independence at a young age because.
And I think that's what's lacking nowadays with a lot of kids, because a lot of kids are just they're not given that responsibility at a young age. And some, it's, for me, it was a life lesson for you guys. If you want something, nicer, I'll provide the roof over your head. I'll provide the food in your mouth. I even provide clothes on your back.
Okay.
But if you want it more than what I can give you, then you would go out and get a job, do what you need to do, but then also learn the worth, learn what the dollar was worth, and how hard it was to be able to buy the things that you wanted to buy.
Absolutely.
So it was a lesson that you learned at the same time. So I think that's one of the reasons why I did that, which I'm kind of happy that I did that in a way. And I think that children nowadays should be doing that as well. I think we that's something that it's not done often now.
Right. I mean, I think it all depends also on the person. Like for me, I know my older son, he loves, since he was younger, I always gave them everything, but not all the fancy, just like you. We can single mom without the dads being present. Not to say that they didn't provide to an extent, but being a full-time mom and dad, as I can relate, and you definitely relate having four, and kind of letting you're the only one that's providing. At some point, you have to teach your kids, like, I can only do but so much, and sometimes it hurts, but now as you get older and you look back, you're like, now my kids, they know how to survive. They know how to take care of themselves. They know what they don't want. They know what we lack to learn, what our parents didn't teach us. Credit,
Definitely,
entrepreneurship, whatever it is, not working for somebody for the rest of your life, following your passion. getting through the hurdles. I mean, even though unfortunately sometimes, our kids had to see us go through those struggles and not always be present because we did have to work and we did have to provide. But I think it's so important that, I think we can both relate on
I
this
think we
topic.
did pretty good in that
Yeah,
sense.
well,
The work ethic is not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. It's a great thing to
right,
have, because easy money is not the best money you can do.
right.
So you have to also, we weren't born with a silver spoon in our mouths either.
Yeah.
So, and of course, too, like in my life, I wasn't taught financial, literacy. I wasn't taught you need to go to school and finish doing the things you need to do to make a better life, so those are the things that at least our kids were able to,
Right.
to do.
I agree. So we're gonna talk on a very sensitive topic.
Oh boy.
Failed relationships.
Oh gosh.
Failed relationships, as we all know, is never an easy topic to discuss. But
Mm.
from then to now, I have seen a lot, and you've seen a lot in my life. Being an adult now, and tell us a little bit about your experiences and what taught you about love and life and those lessons, so we can kind of get some nuggets on how single people or single parents will be able to approach dating or finding the one,
Well,
whatever advice you can give.
I can only tell you from my experiences, and if I say something, it may not work for everybody, right? My experiences are my experience. I'm not an expert in love at all. I can only say what I experienced. With the 3 relationships that I had prior to getting married to my husband now, I did love each and every one of them in a different way. So if somebody says you can't love somebody, the same, or you can't fall in love, you can fall in love. You just fall in love with a different person in a different way because it's a different person, right? But things didn't work out. I unfortunately, my relationships didn't work out for whatever reasons. We can get into that another time. But it all helped me down the road with finding the true love of my life, which is my husband now. So all those things that I went through with my past relationships have helped me to this point of my life, and when you have a relationship with one person, you start off with one person. The next person that you go into, if you decide, you may be with that person for the rest of your life, right? You may marry that person and stay with that person for the rest of your life. But if you do have multiple, relationships, that whatever happened in this relationship, your first relationship, you should always take that as a guide to your next relationship.
Right.
Do not compare the two because it's not fair to the next person that comes into your life, right? Because the things that happen to you from your first relationship, you tend to bring it to the second relationship, right?
If you're not healed.
If you're not healed. One, if you see tendencies, of course, with
Right.
the second
Red
person,
flags.
then you get the red flags, right? So in each relationship, you learn something different. And my thing is, I think when I reached my third relationship, right? That was it for me. I chose me. So I think also too, when you're having relationships and if they're not going the right way or whatever, choose you, and then you continue to look for, or not even look, it'll happen when God wants it to happen. And that's what happened with me with Robert. I also asked God to. I wasn't really specific because I think that you should, if you're gonna ask God for something, to be specific in what you ask. The details. I skipped some of the details, but I did ask God for a God-fearing man, a good man, and that's where I'm at right now. And we have our ups and downs like any relationship, but those failed relationships helped me get the relationship that I deserved. And I chose me because I think also too that self-love is something that's very important. If you don't know how to love yourself first, you're not going to be able to love someone else.
I totally agree. And then, also dating, different relationships, having 4 children, even as a single mom, having 1 child, 2 children, 3 children, 4 children, and different dynamics. And, for me, I know this is about you, but for me, it was always important for whoever I was with to love my children.
Right.
And I guess expected them to love them the way that their own dad would love them. And
Right.
that's kind of a mistake, I guess, that we make, seeking that love and that family. You want that for your children, like if you can't, show up for, because I come with a package,
Right.
So, and I'm sure that's part of the challenge. Also, dating is different when you're single, you don't have kids.
Yeah.
But when you do, that's like really your first priority. And I think sometimes we get caught up. I myself got caught up in relationships where, you thought that you were thinking about your children and their well-being, and you really were just stuck in a fog or a fairy tale in your head,
Right.
Yeah. So let me just clarify. I didn't mean that we shouldn't be looking for someone to love our kids or, to have them love them the way we love them. But sometimes, we get mistaken and caught up in that illusion and can be mistaken. Some people can use that like as a tool, as a lure, like, let me get good with her kids so I can get to her heart. And then, sometimes it becomes like a little game to some people. They know that they're good to your kids, and then they lure you in. And then after that, it's like, I got her where I want her.
I also think when you're dating, and you don't know what a person or how a person is until you're dating them and for a period of time.
Right.
Of course, you get into dating and you have that infatuation phase, and then all of a sudden things start hitting you. So, for me, I would think to tell people, take your time, evaluate the relationship as the months go on, see if this person is the person that you want, or I would say this, do a checklist on the things that you want in your life, and then check off, the person that you're dating, check off to see if those are the things that you like and or love. Because, there's certain things that a person can do to woo you, right? And like you said, sometimes they know what to do to lure you, and then they're not the person they are down the road.
Right.
But you get the red flags, check off the checklist, and then if that checklist is at least half, then at least it's worth going more into their relationship.
Right.
Then to then have the feelings get more deeper and deeper to be harder to get out of the relationship. So you cut the relationship off. Is it easy? It's not easy. You're going to go through like a withdrawal, I would think, okay, because your heart is aching or whatever the case may be. But at least you don't let them in fully. I don't know.
I feel like as you get older and go through experiences, it gets easier to kind of let go. Not to say that it doesn't hurt, but it kind of just like, okay, our time is limited. Like as women, we are, not to say that men and women kind of are different. They're on a different time clock than we are, our biological clocks or stuff, whatever, that may be. For everybody, it has a different scenario. But for me per se, like, now dating, you're catching things that you wouldn't when you were younger. When we were younger, you're caught in an illusion. But as you get older, you kind of, your standards change. The things that you want, and you see that they're not going that direction. It's kind of easier to like. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Doesn't mean it's
But
it's
I also think it's self-love. I also think it's putting yourself first, and that's the thing that we have to learn. And also self-confidence, building your self-confidence, knowing that you deserve better, knowing what you want, the things that you want in your life. So if something comes into your life and you see right away that, oh, I don't like the way this felt, because you feel it, or I don't like the way, I'm thinking a certain way or whatever the case may be. So those, again, red flags come up. You put yourself first. And then you can, move on. And then it becomes easier. I think it becomes easier when you love yourself first.
Because you know what you're not going to, you know what you can give yourself already, right? So,
and it's not being selfish either.
No,
it's
I
just
get that.
loving yourself and what you deserve. Right. And then you put yourself on a certain level where you say, okay, the person that's going to come into my life has to at least come up to that level, so then we can build together.
Right.
You know,
I agree 100% on that.
Yeah.
So you have an amazing husband, our stepdad, but we all treat him like our dad. He's like a dad to all of us. But we're gonna touch more on that when we come back from our break.
You are tuned in to Kat's Agenda. We'll be right back.
So welcome back. We're gonna talk about our amazing stepdad now, Robert, your husband. So tell us a little bit about how that relationship came about, and how just the way he loves all of us and the way he adores you, and how how did that come after, like, again, praying and talk about it a little bit.
Wow, it's kind of funny in a sense because I know Robert for a long time. He actually dated the lady next door, the girl next door to me. And at the time I was with Crystal's dad, right? So I wouldn't even pay attention to him. Plus he was a little younger than I was too. And I was just too involved in my life. I've never been the type of person to like have a conversation with, someone that I really barely know, or even our neighbors. I don't go into people's houses, stay there or whatever, hang out. So Robert was in the back burner, the poor guy. He went through his relationships, and then I went through mine. But when I was at my store, he would pop up all over the place. Hi, and we started talking and stuff like that. This was after the failed relationships and me being on my own, and me also reaching the age of where I said to myself, when I'm reach 50 years old, I'm going to be good.
You always said that.
I always said that. You guys remember.
I still have hope.
Yeah, of course. There's always hope. There's always hope for anyone, even at 80, I would think. But so we started talking, and then we started to date. And the thing is with Robert that I found most attractive was the way he took care of my kids. Like he genuinely in his heart accepted you guys as his. Yeah. He's never been the type of man to say, my stepkids. You've never heard him say my stepchildren. And that was something that I think that drew me close to him, or closer to him, and a God-fearing man as well, because Robert is a God-fearing man. He did come from an amazing household with an amazing mom. Yes. His father, unfortunately, I never was able to meet him because he passed away like 20 years ago, probably more than that. But he did have an amazing mom that was a God-fearing woman. Yes. She was such an angel, and taught her son the good values, and he came out a lot like her. Yeah. So that being said, Robert has been a blessing to my life. We do go at it a lot, but that's part of, I guess, our love language. But
it's like the yin to your yang. You guys kind of balance out each other because you're tough. Yeah. And he's more of a softy. Yeah. So that balance, I think it balances you both out. Sometimes it can drive you crazy because he's too easygoing, and then you're too much, and it drives him crazy. So, but at some point, you guys always balance it out, and him loving us like his own, and the way he loved his mom, like Mona, rest in peace. His mom was an amazing, true definition of a Proverbs 31 woman. Which I think was truly important. And I think that's also important in dating too. What's the relationship like with your mom or with your dad? Exactly. Questions that we don't ask, because a lot of the relationships people have with their parents kind of, is instilled in them, and they bring that into their relationships. Because in my past relationships, I had, someone that had mommy issues, that had abandonment issues. So that came into my relationship because they weren't healed, unless they're healed. And I think with Rob, it's like he came from such an amazing mom, and again, we didn't know his dad, but that instilled so much in him, and we all love you, Rob. Yeah, he's a great man, and we are blessed to have him, and I'm super grateful that my mom in her after her 50 years of relationships that didn't go well. And I would say not even that, because of those relationships, we're here.
Right. Of
So
course.
although they failed, you have beautiful children
Of course,
out of them.
of course.
Same thing with me. I'm grateful for my children. I wouldn't have had them without the fathers.
Yeah.
And just looking back and all of that, to say that, you know what, through my journey, I was able to find someone even when you felt you least suspected it.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't. As another thing is, like, a lot of times us women, we go out looking for love, right? And then that's where you get the raw end of the stick, because you shouldn't look for love. Love should find you, right? So I think that happened with Robert and I. I wasn't looking for love. And the love that I have for Robert is a totally different love than when I was in love when I was a kid. It's totally different, because my mindset and the things that I value now in that stage of the game was different, right? So he met those expectations because I put those expectations, for what I wanted in a man if I was going to get married, because I never got married. And the reason I didn't get married was because I never felt in my heart that this would be forever, because I took marriage serious. Not that I'm a religious person in that sense. I do believe in God and all that stuff. I didn't, I had kids out of wedlock. I had 3 relationships and things like that. But, being with Robert, those expectations that I wanted. And again, me first, what I wanted and what I asked for, I got from
kind of
him.
like you put it out there, but wasn't looking for it.
Right.
And I think that's so important, because a lot of us, we look for that love, and it's like, no, you have to love yourself first. You have to find what you love in yourself, and even the bad stuff, you have to accept yourself and do the improvements, do the work, do the healing. For me, therapy, for journaling, whatever, your outlet is. But everybody has different outlets. And I think it's so important, because when you're not looking for it, you know what you want already. But when you're not looking for it, God knows when you're ready. Because sometimes you can get the right person at the wrong time.
Right, exactly.
Or, and it's not God's timing. So I think that's super crucial. And it's a blessing that, again, we have our stepdad, and you're finally have a man that you deserve in your life, because you did.
And I'm
go
happy.
Through a lot.
That's the whole thing. I'm happy. I wouldn't want it any other way. So I'm glad that God gave me what I asked for in my 50s, because that's exactly what I asked for. It's the craziest thing. I put it out in the universe, and it came to light. So, and he loves you guys immensely. He loves you guys like if he was your real dad. So, he is a blessing.
Right. He's an amazing dad. So his own, he also has his own children, his grandchildren, and your grandchildren are, my nieces and nephews. He loves them to pieces. He's like Santa Claus every year.
Oh, forget it.
Even when it's not Christmas.
Yes.
But, Rob is great. And we're going to move on to, trying to wrap things up, because we're going in a little over an hour, because we could go on and talk about so much.
Definitely, yes.
But let's talk about the space, what you've created here, and what, just talk a little bit about it, the intent.
All right, so I've had this space for quite a few years, and it's a pretty big place, as far as space is concerned. We got multiple rooms in here. And what I did was this space, especially it was a record, for what it is. It was a recording studio, and it still is. We do have an engineer that comes in, but we try to gear away from, the recording, and decided to do the podcast. It's taken a while, but, I felt, because my kids also too, like Priscilla, and you guys like this type of things, like to talk about things, and her with the equipment and her tech savvy and stuff like that, and she enjoys doing what she's doing. I felt that this was a perfect room to do that. Right. So, I mean, the rest of the space I have there is a venue for small intimate parties, classes, things like that. And then we have the real estate office, of course, back there. That's your space. And then I have my craft room. So the space is nice, but my vision is for this podcast room to grow and to bring in our community, together here, and also probably try to do some art classes and things like that down the road. I've been procrastinating. I'm procrastinated on a lot of things.
It's a new year.
But yeah,
You get
we're
it.
gonna do this, and the space is there for the community, and I think to teach and help people grow as well, in the arts, because this is a form of art.
Right. People telling their story. I think even for me, it's totally out of my comfort zone. Like all of this is still like nerve wracking and like, oh my God.
Being in front of the camera.
Yeah.
What am I going to say?
Yeah. And
we got our notes on our phones,
Right.
So I think that those things will come, a little bit better as we continue to move on. But, we want to also give other people the opportunity to do the same and to come in here to feel safe and to feel where you can express yourself and no judgment, and learn also. If you want to learn about how to do the podcasting, we have someone here that will help, which is Priscilla, and to help you move on to the goals that you want to move on to. If you want to do a podcast and talk about the things you want to talk about, because most people want to talk about their passions or their life, their life, whatever it is. So their business. So I think that this is going to be an awesome place, and I would hope people come and experience this homey place here, because I think it's really a cool spot.
Yeah, we have a few people now coming in and recording, so we're excited about that. New guests, new people hosting their own podcasts. So we would love for you guys, if you guys are interested in starting your own podcast or being a guest on our podcast, we would love for you to reach out and see how we can help. We have a full team here ready to service you guys. We have the space. We have amazing surroundings, and the nuggets, whatever you need.
Of course.
Whatever you need, whether it's crafting, whether it's a party space, whether it's real estate, whether it's social media, whether it's starting your own podcast.
We have a lot of knowledge under one roof.
One place. So it's a creative space.
Yeah, definitely.
Which has been her vision all her life. So her vision is literally here, and we can help other people. She can help other people, accomplish those dreams. So we're gonna sign off, I think. Anything else you want to say?
I just want to make sure to tell, especially women, out of this whole conversation that we had. I'm sure we're going to have other conversations as we go by, that don't give up. Make sure that you're present. Make sure you show up. And it's never too late to, do something that is meaningful to you. So I think that's the takeaway from everything that's here, that we've talked about, and to have self-love, that number one, and to move on, and then, everything falls into place.
Yeah, I think that's truly important. It's important because not only does your own self-love and everything that you pour into yourself, you're able to, it overflows and it goes on to your children, your family, your friends, your business. Because if you're not good with yourself, you can't be good for anybody else. And I've learned that the hard way. I'm very hard on myself. And I know you've probably, we all kind of face that similar challenge. So, fill your own cup up, do the things you have to do yourself, your self-help, whatever, reading, therapy, working out, whatever your outlet is, your crafts, and just continue to show up so that way you can be a blessing to others, because that's what God created us for.
Yeah. Well, if you don't show up, nobody else is going to do it for you either. You have to make sure that you're the one that's doing it, because nobody's going to go and tell you. I mean, you'll get support and stuff like that, but
Especially
the only way you're going to be able to do it is by doing it.
Right.
Because we can say that we're going to do things, we can think about that with the things that we want to do, but the only way of doing things is to show up.
And
That's the
especially as
mission,
an
really.
entrepreneur, you know, nobody's really, when you're your own boss, there's nobody else pushing you. You got to push yourself. You have people relying on you, but nobody's there to hold you accountable, you know? So,
Yeah, and I also think too that when you're doing something like that, that not to dwell on the failures, dwell on your accomplishments, and dwell on thinking positive.
right.
So the negativity, once it gets in it comes in. Okay, out the door. We don't want this anymore. Let's move forward.
Keep it moving.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, guys. So if you or anybody that you know wants to start a podcast or wants to be in our show, reach out. Thank you again, Mom, for being on our show.
Thank you
and
for having me.
Of course,
It's been
I
a
love you.
pleasure.
And thank you guys for joining. Until next time.